What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Love Music More. I've got an incredible guest, Jesse McGinty. So Jesse's got some ridiculous credits as a horn player, and I'm talking all sorts of horns. He's a multi-talented, multi-instrumentalist. Played with J-Lo, Pharrell. He's performed on Ellen. He's done commercials. He played on The Masked Singer. Mike was recently featured on Camila Cabello's Familia album, playing a solo trumpet to start off the album. An awesome dude. And one of his top credits, Scuba Dubert. He played on my Christmas record, and I'm going to make another one this year, so hopefully he'll take that call too. So I think you're really enjoy this conversation. It's all about everything that goes into arranging for horns, growing as a musician, working as a pro, and then being flexible, trying to fill up your own creative energies and then also help other creative projects get off the ground. Super really fun conversation, but it actually was. Before we get into it, I want to also thank and introduce our great title sponsor, DistroKid. DistroKid makes music distribution fun and easy with unlimited uploads, and artists keep 100% of their royalties and earnings. And the best part is you can support the podcast and grow your music career with a 30% off discount. Best discount I have seen on the internet. And you just go to our link, distrokid.com/VIP/love music more. So that's /VIP/love music more, and you get 30% off. 1 million plus artists rely on DistroKid to get their music onto Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, TikTok, Tidal, Instagram, and all the major streaming services. They're adding new services all the time. And when you sign up, you can also download the app so you can take it on the go, pull out your earnings, direct deposit, all that good stuff. And they'll even send you push notifications. It's like, cha-ching, you got some more money from people streaming or downloading your music, or putting it on Instagram. One of the things that I also really love about DistroKid is that you can check this little box to leave a legacy. And so even if your credit card gets declined or you've just forgot to update it or anything like that, your music stays on the platform forever. Just gives me good peace of mind to know that my music isn't going anywhere. People are going to be streaming Scuba Dubert into the eternity. Fingers crossed. So anyway, check out DistroKid. Highly recommend them. I use them for my music. distrokid.com/VIP/love music more to get started today. Anyway, enjoy this conversation with Jesse McGinty. What's good, everybody? This is Scuba Dubert, and I'm joined with Jesse McGinty. We are going to be talking about life as a pro musician, experience recording horns and horn arrangements, of which you did one of my tunes, the Michael Bublé, my Santa Buddy. So welcome to the podcast. I am excited to have this chat. How you doing, Jesse?
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, no, it's great. So I'd love to just kind of start off with it's a new year. What are you working on now, kind of like to jump off this new year? I'm sure that all of the different, people are hitting you up or like thinking of new records or what's kind of floating out there in the air? What are you working on right now?
Yeah. My studio is a new space.
Cool. Awesome. Love to talk about that.
A few months in. So I'm trying to spend time there, be creative there rather than, at the end of last year, it's like, around the holidays, you're doing a lot of stuff that isn't necessarily creative.
Yes.
Not like your song, but especially as a horn player, we're doing a bunch of Christmas remakes and,
for sure.
and stuff like that,
Totally.
So at the end of the holiday season, feeling a little burnt, I guess,
yes.
on the gig scene and the recording jobs. And so at the beginning of this year, I would say trying to be creative a little bit.
Cool.
Trying to bring that energy back into into my daily life,
Yeah.
So I would say, there's some things coming up that I have to do or whatever.
For sure.
But more focusing more on creative projects and mine particularly. So I'm excited about that.
Yeah, totally. I feel like January's got a unique kind of energy to it, especially with music, like making finishing up a bunch of the last year's gigs, and people have got deadlines and mental deadlines of like, I want to get this done before I go on holiday or whatever, Christmas music, all of that kind of stuff. And then you get to January and you kind of go like, okay, like what do I actually want to do? Like, how can I zoom out and like look at this thing on a broad sense?
There's a lot of people that are like, oh, I don't have things to do. Like, before things start getting crazy, let's get together and do nothing or anything, Like,
right.
let's like let's press record and just play.
Yes.
Which has been happening, which I'm really happy about,
Yes.
But it's going to be a good year.
Good.
A lot of new energy happening in my house, in my life, at the studio, all that. So I'm real happy about that. It's important to keep that alive.
Cool. Okay.
Anytime you have the chance to bring that energy through,
yes.
You need to push. You need to take advantage of that. We get bogged down so easily with everything, with life, with the family, with work, with all of it, that you really got to push through those moments. So right now it feels good.
Yeah. I think that's a really important point too, is like the not taking creativity for granted, or moments and inspiration for granted, and using it to its fullest and setting time aside for it when it does strike, is a really hard balance that I don't know if anybody's really figured it out, but I know that our creatives, artists and stuff have to kind of deal with that their entire lives.
Oh yeah. Well, I would say it's work to do it. To make it to that creative place takes work of, I guess the work is making that choice. Stay there, to make that choice rather than to, whatever, sit on your phone or go, waste time.
Yes.
Because, okay, so let's say you want to go to the studio and a day of, well, what do you have to do to accomplish that? You have to get up, make that choice, get ready, drive there, set up all your gear, like there's an hour of prep before you even...
I don't think people realize the intricacies of like, okay, now I gotta like do all the linear problem solving of, oh, this mic cable's like on the fritz, I gotta get a new mic cable, and like I gotta make sure that this mic position, then I gotta go reference it before you even start the creative process. Really, it's like the pre-prep is huge. Yeah.
So pushing through that time and those feelings of I don't want to, or self-doubt, or whatever is coming up, because you also can get that feeling of you make it all the way there and you start to work and you're like, well, this wasn't worth all this trouble. It's another feeling that comes up that you have to push through. And I'll say this, it really helps to have other people to help through that, and so that's why I like to work with people. I mean, everybody does. I think it's rare to find people that really work by themselves in music, especially coming up in music. I would say that, we all fell in love with it and started doing it as a group.
Absolutely.
Ever, it's very rare to find somebody that just learned to do it and loved doing it on their own. I mean, it happens. Yeah. It's really rare. Really rare.
I mean, just from my perspective, I don't think I could have learned it without other people. I do it primarily alone now.
Yeah.
Which I don't prefer, but it is like the reality
I will say that I'm amazed at anybody that can do that.
But it took the village and the collaboration, all this stuff to understand. Like I couldn't have programmed drums without spending like a decade with incredible drummers and like touring with people. Like I couldn't do it. I couldn't think like that without osmotically like learning from all these different people, and like bass, the way that they all integrate is I'm just trying to, in my head, I've got like, two of my friends, Nick Campbell and Logan Shrewsbury, like their pocket. I'm like, I want to pull that, and I just want to play both. But without having those references, like drill deep, it'd be impossible to do. You know, it's just it wouldn't have the bag or the barometer. You know.
Totally. And then there's something different with playing with somebody and being in the room with somebody and feeling what that feels like than listening to the record, you know. It's just a different, it's alive when you're there. And it's yes, a record, you know, the music is living, but it's a different kind of you know, it's different. It's like that moment, you're encapsulating that moment when you make a record, but you're actually there in that moment, feeling so much more when you're there with the musicians, right?
Agreed.
So I know exactly what you're saying. So back to what we were saying. I need people there to have that feeling in order to keep myself inspired to keep pushing through and to keep working what I need to be.
It kind of reminds me, I don't know if you've had this feeling, but I definitely have, where you like drive to the gym and you just kind of sit in your car for a while. Like, I don't know, maybe this is just me. I see other people though in the gym parking lot doing this, of like, I have physically transported me to this space. I do not want to work out. It's cold outside of the car. And I'm just going to like kind of like put it off and procrastinate just doing it. But I would feel such shame that if I didn't like go to the gym, like I just drove to the parking lot, sat there for a while and left, like I wouldn't be able to live with myself. So like I already did what I needed to do. I'm going into the gym. I'm just delaying the inevitable. And eventually I'm like, okay, I got this. And then I go in. And I think it's like funny that, you know, music has got some of that same energy of like, yes, I love music and I want to have the record or I want to have the performance, but there are so many like painful steps between here and there that you just gotta get through.
You have to see so far into the to see the payoff.
Exactly.
Especially like to learn music especially like I'm an instrumentalist. Like, you know, I play horns like at a level that people pay me to do it, right?
Right, exactly.
So the amount of time and you know, not fun things that necessarily, I mean, you know, it's fun. It's something I love. But the repetition and the work that you have to put in that isn't necessarily a payoff in the moment, you really have to have a lot of foresight in order to see, in order to realize that this is going somewhere.
Yes.
And the same thing is in the recording process. You know, it's like you have to have this picture way down the line to have the energy to put in the work in order to, you know,
exactly.
And so it's just something that it takes a special type of person in order to put in that work, because you know, everybody loves music, and I see people try to write and try to create and try to make music that don't have that picture at the end, and they just don't have that energy to make it happen, you know, because it takes so much. It takes so much, you know, and there's, I don't know who said it, but there was, you know, it's kind of an idea that's been passed around, I guess. But you have, when you think something is actually possible, when you believe in something, you have endless energy to do it. And the minute that you don't believe in it, you lose all that energy. You literally, it's gone. And I know as musicians, we've all experienced that.
Absolutely.
Like
last night.
In real
Literally last night.
In time, if you really feel inspired about something and you really see that picture and believe that you can create it, you can stay up as long as you need. You can sit sit there and do it as long as you need. But the minute that you have that doubt that it's going to, that you believe that that's going to be a creation that you believe in, it's gone. You can't do it anymore. You have to leave and do something else. That's it. It's all gone. And I don't know. That's something that I keep in mind. You know. Yeah.
No, totally. I mean, I felt literally last night. I'm working on this song, so I'm working on stuff because I'm trying to get some background vocals across like a record, and I'm trying to get kind of similar headspace for the background vocalist. So I'm trying to batch up a bunch of tunes, and so it's actually proving very challenging to me, and I like that because I like new challenges for different records. But it's like I'm trying to make a bunch of songs 40%. And it's really hard for me not to just like, because I end up losing energy at like, because I know I'm not going to take it all the way. So I'm like, I'm just going to do a demo synth part. And I'm like, I hate this bridge. I'm like, but I have to tell myself like, it's not going to be the bridge. I'm going to change this. This is just so I can sing vocals on it. But it is so hard for me to like, just do a scratch thing and then put something professional and real on top of it. It is a battle of like energies. And I usually succumb and like end up making the synth part better or something so that I have enough like juice so that I can continue. I literally felt that last night. Like I fell off a cliff with energy. It was after work. I was in the office doing my day job and I came home and I'm like, I think I can't do this. But I just pressed on, fixed those things, and I found that energy again. But it was only because like I identified like this is the thing that sapped it from me. I fixed that thing, and then all of a sudden the whole song started to like come into perspective. And then you're right. I had energy. I stayed up. Got it done. You know?
It's wild. It's really wild. It makes you think about just like what's real about music. What is it? You know?
I don't know.
Magic. What is it? You know? And in general, in life, you know.
Well, it's all of it. It's like perception too. It's like, what is cold? You know, I have friends in Chicago. They come to LA or San Diego and they're like, this is great. And everyone's like, oh my God, I'm freezing. You know, it's like there's different perceptions, but like what is tired? What is cold? What is hungry? Like all of these things are shifting, especially with the medium.
Shift like what you're talking about. Tired shifts when you find something that inspires you. So really, what is it? You know, things like that. It's very that, you know, it's like playful, you know.
Yes.
And I'll also say this about what you were saying with your song last night.
Sure.
I think with music, I don't know if it's the way we were brought up or it's something that somebody told us, or I don't know. Did you go to music school?
Yeah, I went to USC.
Yeah. To where?
Thornton, to USC.
Yeah. So, you know, it has a lot to do with, I think there's a lot of damage from music schools. Like the whole surrounding of it and also the people that teach us. There's a lot of seriousness surrounding music, and there's a lot of pressure that, you know, we put on ourselves and on music that I think is unnecessary. You know, and it's the reason why we fell in love with it is not because it was perfect, and it was not because it was the recreation of something else or some other moment. And it just, we all do it, you know, we all put that unnecessary pressure for it to be better or for it to, you know, be something, be anything. But I've been trying to just do anything and not have it have to be anything, you know. And you know, a lot of times that's not where the job part is.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Job part is recreating something almost exactly, almost all the time, you know. But this pressure that we put on it, you know, and it's such a killer to the creative process, you know. And I feel like in in media right now, in all across the board, it's all throwbacks to recreation of things that have worked in the past. And it's all right, it makes us feel good, but I don't think that's necessarily the best place for me to be in music and in the creative process when I'm doing it for myself.
Yes.
You know?
Right.
So yeah, just a little aside on what you were saying there, because we're all in that place where we're trying to make something, and it's like, oh, this isn't exactly right. I got to get this exactly right. And, I don't really like this. It's like, just power through that, just leave it, and sometimes it works, and sometimes something else makes itself clear when you don't get stuck on something like that, and you end up it ends up blossoming into something that you never expected it to be,
Yes.
And you can always go back and take it out later or whatever,
Right.
But yeah, that's just a little something that.
No, I like it. I've been thinking about that a lot too. And I'll probably do a solo pod on this because this is the thing I was going to talk about before this episode. But I don't know how it'll all work out in terms of like release times. But talking about like fear being a guide rather than something to hurt you. So like I've looked at my own creative process for this record that I'm working on now, and I guess the one prior somewhat, but I used to be kind of scared of just like doing straight vocal takes of the entire tune and like figure out the phrasing. If the like lyrics doesn't work and you have to punch in to do this thing, like change the lyrics, like just like the old school kind of way of doing it. I've also been like scared of being a singer-songwriter because I thought that wasn't cool, and it really kind of hasn't been cool. Like reacquainting with like singer-songwriter music and being like, I'm gonna try and write 3-chord songs on cowboy chords and try and make it cool because I'm scared of it.
Yeah.
And using that as like a not something to run away from, because music school kind of made me run away from those things. Like it made me want to be cool and impress my friends, like and my teachers and stuff. Like I wanted that validation. And some of that's good because it makes you better. But then I think the full circle is then to abandon it and start to go back. That revelation. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's hard though, man. It's really hard.
It's really hard. It's really hard. It's like I kind of describe it as like a black ball of gunk that's inside you, and you can't separate like your worth.
Ooh, I like that.
And your like your creative energy and like the way you make a living, and all these things. You gotta separate them. And again, like the how your peers look at you and how you look at yourself, as two different things, and separating those things, it's like it's impossible. I mean, you can do it, but it's still stuck together. It can still stick so easily.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes, totally. I do know what you mean. Hey guys, I have a new record coming out and I just wanted to announce it here. The record is called I, like the letter I, and it'll be out on all streaming platforms, and I'm also pressing vinyl for it. So really excited for that. Would love it if you're able to pick up a copy of the vinyl. It's not quite out yet, but you can check out the merch shop in anticipation of it. And there's also cool podcast merch on there too. Just go to scoobertduber.pizza. You'll find all my links, and we'll also add a link there when the vinyl is ready to purchase, and we will ship it out to you. And it's going to be awesome. So definitely check out the merch store and listen to the album coming out this Friday, the 17th of June, 2024, I, from my Mobius series of albums. This one is called I. Hope you enjoy it. And one of the things that was kind of a light bulb for me is I'm reading some Beatles stuff, and I listened to Obla Di Obla Da, and I'm like, you know what? It's cool because it's lame.
I didn't care.
Yeah, exactly.
Is the point. And and there's something so what's the word of like attractive about that. You know what I mean?
Yes, I know what you mean.
that whatever, I don't care attitude, so attractive,
Yeah.
because everybody is in awe of that, because
Uh-huh.
everybody cares so much.
Cares so much. I know. And
You
it's
know?
funny because you do have to care to
Yeah.
get good, but then I think then to take it to that next level, you have to like kind of stop. It's
Yeah.
there's just there are these different thresholds that you need to cross, and to everybody on the other side of the threshold, it's like hard to see where they're at, and
Yes.
it's not linear. You go backwards, you go forwards, but
Not.
yeah.
Tell me again what
Yeah.
because I lost a train of thought, what you were talking about with your solo podcast there.
Yeah, so I'm probably going to do a solo pod just musing on letting fear be the guide.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Okay. So I really like what you said there.
Cool.
That fear, you can't let fear make the choices for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you have to make the choice to do the thing that is fearful, is basically what you're saying.
Exactly. Like almost using that as like you hit a fork in the road, one of the roads is scarier. It's like, that's the road,
Yeah,
like
totally. And it internally, intrinsically, right? That's the thing that you have to do, because that's the thing that's scary.
Yes, exactly.
And in life, I think that's a really good rule, not just in music.
Yeah.
Taking those chances, because the payoff is going to be better. You don't know where it's going, and that's what we're always trying to do, especially as creative people, is end up in a place that we haven't been before, even though our thoughts don't want us to end up in that spot, right?
And there are these different things that feel like they're incentivized for you to try and do the same thing over and over and over again, and like maybe algorithms and things are tooled for that. And I see a lot of music careers that are built around like one song done 12 different ways.
Yes.
But it doesn't seem satisfying, and I don't ultimately think those are the people that are most successful or most actualized or most happy. I don't know.
I don't think so either. I think,
yeah,
happiness, first of all, I don't think should be tied in too much with how your music is doing.
Yeah, right. I know. It's so hard, but you're right.
Yeah.
You're totally right.
And that's a trap. That's a trap that we all fall into,
Yep.
And I think that, for me, the family really changed that perspective, I needed these kids to show me that wasn't the way.
Yes.
Yes. It's just how you sound, what people think of your music, comparison. I mean, we can just talk about like how toxic comparison is, in music, because it is an open-ended medium. Some of the things that we love don't fit into the way that we look at ourselves as writers or as performers or anything, and yet there's something magic behind that. So you can't put yourself into this box or you just can't compare yourself to anything. You can't. Otherwise you're, again, killing energy, energy. So I don't know. That's just what I say about that.
I like it. And it's funny because like so much of it ends up being luck and timing and market forces kind of stuff. Like I feel that way with some of my music, where if I released it 7 years ago, people would be like, ooh, there's so much guitar, like guitar's not cool.
Right, guitars are cool now. Yeah,
I don't have any say over that. Like what the general people think if guitar is cool, or like I'm hearing that with drums right now, where people are like, oh, it sounds like so live. It sounds like a real drummer, and I don't want it to sound like oh, come on. But like that, these things the pendulums and things ebbs and flows.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, no. And some of my favorite musicians, some of my favorite people, like, my buddy Oku Daxish, he makes really cool singer-songwriter music. A bunch of it's in 3/4. It's just cool.
Yeah.
He doesn't get a ton of monthly listeners. He should.
Yeah.
But like it doesn't stop him. He writes every day. He's still going. He doesn't care.
Yeah. And that's what it's about. Like the happiness, it shouldn't be tied to how it's doing,
Yeah.
Because I'll tell you what, there's people that are doing real well
Uh-huh.
and are not happy people.
Yes.
And,
yeah.
It always seems like, oh, well, if
only
if my career was blasting off, if I was doing amazing, I'd be happy. That's not the case. The internal struggle is always going to be there. And the money helps with stress, maybe, but happiness, I mean, it's different for you make that choice. You have to make that choice to be happy.
Yeah.
And I'm happiest if I'm just making things.
Yes. Yep.
Like musically, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
But happiness is like, for me, like my family, right?
Yeah. Right.
And like, if I'm like able to walk outside and, be in nice places and, I guess, money helps with those things.
Yeah.
And we want to be able to make money with music because that's what we do for a living. And that
creates freedom.
It creates freedom, but that's not
freedom of choice. Yeah.
going to be that's not going to be the answer,
Right.
And I know that's kind of universal.
Yeah.
Where people are like, oh, if my career was going better, I'd be happier. But that's not always the case.
And if you focus on, like self-actualizing, like being the best you can be, practicing, growing, being freely creative, eventually you might catch that wave. The tide might go in your direction, and now you have 100 songs. Like now, like that's kind of at least the myth I tell myself is like, hey man, if I'm working on music all the time, let things come, let things fall wherever. But like there is at least some degree of success if I just keep going.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Anytime you put energy into something with good intention and truthfully, you will get something in return. I
like the way
no doubt about it. I mean, I've seen it happen in my life over and over again.
Yeah.
And the intuition, you have to trust that intuition, that's like our magic.
Yes.
Pathfinder.
Yeah.
And if you can trust that intuition to and it's super hard.
Oh yeah, totally.
Super hard. It goes against everything that's going on up here.
Yeah. Right.
If you trust that, then and put work into whatever it is you're doing, put energy into it, the universe will give you something. You don't know what it is.
Yes.
And you have to trust. It's a big exercise in trusting what's coming. And if it seems bad or feels weird, you have to realize that you don't know where that's leading.
Yes.
Continue.
Yes, like because I right along with where you're saying is like I started practicing Japanese 9 years ago, something like that. And when I started, everyone was like, "Why are you doing that?" I'm like, "I don't know. I like it. I'm not sure." And it's been like foundational to my happiness and my career and all of these things, and it just seems like it's becoming even more so. And that was not the goal. It became the goal. But it started as just, this is a thing that is hard and I enjoy, and why aren't you learning Spanish? It's like, I probably should be. Like, I understand that. Logically, I should be speaking Spanish. And like, at some point, I hope I do. But it's like, for some reason, I want to learn this. I'm going to learn this. And I feel like it could apply to anything in anybody's life. I want to learn woodworking. Like, okay, figure it out. Why? I don't know. I'm going to, like that kind of I'm not learning woodworking, but just an example. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Agreed. That's awesome. about the Japanese. Yeah.
I love it, but it was years and years and years of hard work. I'm still fine at, like, I've gotten to a point where I feel very proud of where I'm at, but it's not like I've ascended the mountain or whatever.
Right.
But it's like, it didn't just go into nothing. It didn't go into the void. It wasn't something that was like, oh, I learned a parlor trick.
Right.
It's like, no, this ended up being foundational. You just didn't know it at the time.
Yeah. I will also say that any type of learning is important. It's important to continue learning, because I know, in music, people that just stop the learning process.
Yes.
And that just makes them become stagnant, and nothing pushes forward after that. They kind of stay. It can keep you in the same place, or in the same kind of like world, hemisphere, whatever.
Sure.
And that's not what we're trying to do. This music is a lifelong journey, and process, and every musical situation you're in, and every day is an opportunity to learn something and to better yourself and have a better understanding. And if you close yourself off to that, then I don't think that you're truly embodying what it means to be a musician, because the people that I look up to that do music are never done learning. They're just always trying to be better at it, or just have more of an understanding of it. I guess it's more like what did Darwin, what's Darwinism, what's the word I'm looking for?
Natural selection.
No, like the monkey turns into the man, and
evolution.
Yeah, trying to evolve as a musician.
Okay.
Rather than, and it doesn't necessarily mean you could play more ideas, or
totally.
It might even mean you play less.
Exactly.
Imagine that. Do something that's simpler.
Most people that I talk to are better shredders when they're younger.
Totally.
They don't become like increasingly better shredders. They just go like, okay, that's enough time invested into that whole thing.
Exactly. There's a realization, a growing, an evolution that happens. That that all of a sudden you realize that, I should be playing things that people want to listen to, or I want to listen to,
Right.
or make things that people can understand, or and I think that's something that's lost a lot of times with young people trying to, especially in jazz. That's what my background is in, and they're really trying to be able to play everything, and they lose the idea that a listener can digest the music that they're hearing. And that's always the music that, even as you grow older, that I listen to, is things that I can digest and aren't too abrasive to surroundings and my ears and everything, my being. So I think that's a very interesting, art.
It is, and it might be necessary. You might need to do the chop thing, so then now you've got that bag, or you've got technical facility, like your neurons and stuff is all in sync. So now I can like focus on speaking with it rather than just like alphabet soup.
I mean, the problem is jazz school.
Right.
It's a big problem. But without it, we wouldn't have the community to work. Also,
for sure.
And that's something that is invaluable, because that is what created this life for me, at least.
Yes.
So it's a catch-22 there.
Yeah, it totally is. And I also like the way that you're positing like music learning in its broadest possible sense. Like I really like talking with drummers, especially drummers that have been in the studio a lot, because the nuance of like tuning or your heads or your beater choice, like what's on your kick drum and what is hitting it with your foot pedal. Like, oh, this is like a felt beater. This one I can turn around. It can be like a harder attack. All these like little tiny nuances where, everybody's doing the same 4 on the floor beat or whatever, like everybody's doing the same thing. So like, where do you differentiate yourself on the tones, on the mic placement, on the way you're thinking about, okay, I'm going to play really quiet so you can turn up the preamps. It's going to get more saturation in the preamp rather than in the drum. Like all these like little micro decisions. And I like it from the perspective of a drum kit. I also, I think horns is also a really interesting thing of like, a lot of this is fairly static. Where on the margins can we change things and make a world of difference? Like totally change the output.
Sure.
I love it. I find it like guitar is kind of the opposite. Like I have so many knobs and toys and pedals and like you can almost like lose yourself in the technology.
Yes.
And you can miss like the little things like, have you tried picking differently? Or like, like, oh, I'll use a different reverb and I'll turn this knob and automate that. It's like, yeah, like what if you used your fingers?
Well, I mean, it's an interesting that's a fun game basically.
Right. Yeah.
Like being as creative as you can within this very specific box.
Yeah.
Like being a drummer.
Right.
Because you're playing this on a lot of music. It's the same beat, tempo differentiates very, very little in certain genres and things.
Yeah. And they might even quantize you too. So
totally. So yeah, how can we set this apart? How can these drums sound cool? Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's very, very interesting. That's a really, I know some engineers that are just so
totally
so what's the word? They gotta make everything exactly
fine tuned, zoomed
and it
in.
makes a difference. It makes a difference. It does. Even putting that energy into it, just having having that like energy behind what you're doing, adds. Even if it like you separate the kick drum and it sounds exactly the same as some other one, just having that energy surrounding it is going to change it in some way, you know. That's where that magic, that's where it's like what's real, what's not.
Right.
And I think it's funny, like that brings up this. I've been in some sessions with different, with people that don't necessarily know so much about music, and there's kind of a especially in the hip hop world, there's like this feeling that like if you know too much about music, then there's like some magic lost. You know what I mean?
I've heard that a lot.
Yeah, and
I think the general public too. Like how many people have told me like that so and so didn't read music. Like you don't have, like.
Totally.
Okay.
But what's crazy is that people making music like don't want people around that know too much about music.
Cool. That's cool.
Because they think that like there's something that is lost there.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Know. I'm not sure.
Right. Maybe it's
right. I get it. Yeah.
It could be. I mean, I know I feel where that's coming from.
Yeah, me too.
I understand where that's coming from. And I think that is right in certain cases.
But you can also train for that too. Like I do that where like last night when I was in that funk, I pulled up a like Rhodes piano and I just played nonsense. Like absolute, just a nonsense improvisation, like super whatever, like a full on childlike playing. And it reset me, like I was like, okay, I can reapproach this thing because I just did 30 minutes of just gobbledygook.
Yeah.
But like that's a thing you can train to try to get yourself back into that mindset of the unlearned musician, and then you can get the best of both worlds. Because like when you don't know the musical terms, then you can't communicate with anybody. You're like, hey, like can you play a third and the bass in there? Like, what's a third? It's like, okay, fret 3 on the A string, like
I did.
yeah, like oh no,
I know.
it's like this is gonna take so long now.
Oh man. Well, basically, I always think this, like, learning the theory and learning to read is just a way to put words and communication to something that we all know intrinsically.
Right. Totally. And that's what
so
I think too.
I'm always fascinated by people who learned on their own or learned by ear, and they always want to say, "Oh, I'm not like you, I don't know it," and I'm like, no, I wish I had what you have.
I know.
You wish you had what I had, but I need, I can maybe communicate what you're playing, but you can just do it without even thinking. You just know what it is,
Yes.
And that's always a fascinating, difference there between musicians.
I agree, but I think that sometimes people use it as an excuse or as like a thing that ends up holding them back ultimately, where it's like if you talk to somebody that was illiterate, but they could full on speak English, had a great vocabulary. You say, and then you use a very literary word, they're like, I don't. It's like, hey man, if you just learn how to read, you'd know that word.
Yeah.
And
right.
Then you could take this thing and you could like go anywhere and you could read on the bus and you could use that language and no one has to talk to you anymore. You're like, you can do it.
Yeah.
It's like, no, it's not cool. Like, I'll be a worse speaker if I can read.
Yeah.
It's like, really? Are you sure?
Something like that. Yeah.
I'm a little salty on it. Like, I think that people should just do it. Like, learn as much as you want to, but if it's holding you back, like, learn a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. If you feel that way, definitely learn it.
Yeah.
It
would have held me back. I think that's what I'm trying to say is my perspective. If I didn't develop that bag, I couldn't.
I mean, that's how I make a living.
Right, exactly.
Knowing what people are talking about.
Yes, that's true.
I mean, I'm like the extreme example of like a person who studied everything and no, whatever you try to tell me to do, I can like figure out what you're saying, in terms of like musical language.
Cool.
Right?
Yes.
But again, I'm
please.
There's certain people that I'm like, do not just don't.
Cool.
Learn it. Like, there's no reason for you to do that.
I love it.
And one example
please.
Specifically is Pharrell.
Cool. Okay. That's a good example.
Yeah. He's just
cool.
He's like, oh, I don't know. I now he's like taking classes to learn music theory.
Really?
Yeah. But
that's cool.
But somebody made him feel bad about it.
No.
Point. And I just think that he doesn't need to do that. There's that magic, you know what I mean?
Right.
But it is good to know. Yeah.
Primarily for communication. That's the thing that I reach for the most is to be able to share, like, here's the idea very quickly in words that you understand.
Yeah, totally. And it's very helpful. Very, very helpful.
Yeah.
In what we're talking about, the work situation.
Right.
Rather than like the creative.
It's different. It is different.
And if you don't have to be in the work environment, in the music work environment in that way, then don't do it if it's not.
Exactly. Well, that's very similar to our shredding conversation. It's like, hey, that's out of scope. That's cool. Like, and I get that. If you're going to hire people like you, that it's like, here's the idea, interpret it, help be the musical director and feed this to the rest of the band. Why do you need to practice it now? Because you hired that out. It's like, if I was able to hire a recording engineer, I wouldn't have needed to learn all this recording engineering crap. I love it. But like, you know what I mean? Like it'd be out of scope.
Yes. Anyway, I don't know. To each his own,
To each their own, yeah.
And there's no rules. There's no rules to any of it. And I just think that people who who think that they should that it's greener on the other side. It's up to you how you want to live your life. If you want those skills and you put energy into it and you learn those skills, then it's going to come back to you and you're going to be able to use those skills. Just like we're saying, whatever it is you put energy into, whatever you learn, there's going to be a time that it's going to be useful to you. But if you don't want to be in that position, if you don't want that, then don't do it.
Totally. And it's okay. It's okay to have a list of things that you want to get to someday. You know, like that's okay too. Like Flea, he did classes at USC because he wanted to learn music theory and stuff like that. But it was because it was just kind of like a thing that like, when I'm older and middle aged, like that sounds interesting. So he did it. Yeah. You know, it's like when I'm older, middle aged, I want to do I want to learn how to do more hard composition, like actual like choral music kind of composition.
Yeah.
I don't care if anyone wants to listen to it. It's something that I want to do. It's not something I want to do now, maybe not even next 20 years, but hopefully I live a long, varied life and I can get to that someday. But like, I'm not putting pressure on myself to go get that textbook on counterpoint right now, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
I did enough of that.
I mean, back to bringing it back to what we were saying before, that music wouldn't have occurred, those bass lines wouldn't have been played if he had all this
I agree.
knowledge. You know,
exactly.
There is some magic in that because he's doing something that nobody else did because he doesn't have all the vocabulary that he was taught from some bass player at some music school, you know, and now he's stuck with all this same vocabulary that every other bass player has, you know? And you know, that's I think the problem is the kind of whitewashing of musicians through school, where we all learn the same thing and we all learn the scales that we should be using and the chord patterns that we should be, you know, using in our songs and all this. And so, you know, the people that break out of that, even though it's a risk.
Yeah, oh, totally. And maybe no one will listen to you.
Huge risk. I mean, the risk is that you're not going to work.
Right.
You know, and if you want to be a musician, like you don't have the skills to work a lot of the jobs that are in music.
Yes.
So it's a real big risk, but the people who are willing to take that risk and do something really, really creative because they're not inundated by everything that has already happened.
Yes.
Then, you know, I have so much respect for those people.
But I feel like you can get to the other end of it, or at least maybe this is a myth I tell myself to. But like, I think that there is a place beyond the tradition where you have so much tradition that you can get like bored of it, and it gets fully internalized.
Yes.
And then now you can, you know, write a song with a song form that no one's ever heard.
Definitely.
You know?
I think, absolutely. No question about that. I'm not saying you can't do it at all.
Cool.
Not at all. I'm just saying that it's harder. You have to do some work in order to get to that place to escape what, or set aside rather, not escape.
Cool. To set aside. I like that. Set aside.
Set aside everything that you've already, that's like so internalized, right?
Yes.
And so sometimes it takes something drastic to get to that place, you know? And it only happens for me. I don't know how often, but
it's a flashes thing for me
too. It's not all the time.
I'll say me either. No way.
It's like when I'm in a specific mood.
Yeah.
You know?
Right.
And it's almost like impossible to recreate.
Yeah. Right.
Moment. Or you can't figure out how to get back there. It's like it's like the mirage, you know?
Yeah. That's a good way to put it.
You know, like place that's not on the map, you know?
Yeah.
And when that does come, you still got to go an hour and set up all your cables.
Yeah.
And turn on the computer and all that. And so push through that to get to that. You know? And so you always got to remember that there's work involved
Yeah.
in all of it, you
Yeah.
know? And so, yeah, it's just, it's fun. It's just fun,
Yeah, it is
No
fun.
pressure, no pressure.
Right. Well,
Yeah.
that's the beautiful balance. It's that paradox. And I almost liked the way you put it with to set aside without like an object to that verb. It's
Mhm.
just this unknown, like set aside. You have
Yeah.
those flashes where you actually do.
Yeah.
And I like, you know, some other people like Rick Rubin's and stuff, they talk about this esoteric thing, which I do resonate with, of this like essential nature of things, or the source that you can tap into briefly. You get like a little thimble of water
Yeah.
from it, you know, every once in a while. And the only way that it really shows up is if you like show up every day too, you know, like
Definitely that. And also, again, other people can bring it out.
Other
in you.
people can bring it out in you. I totally agree.
And
You know.
like when you find that person and you don't know if it's gonna be
I want to talk about that.
who it's gonna be. You know?
Yeah. Totally.
When you find that person, it's important to, you know, try to continue to spend time with them in a creative way, you know?
Yeah.
And when it doesn't work anymore, you don't do it anymore. It's fine, you know? But yeah, it's so interesting. I like that that little symbol of magic water.
Just enough to sustain me for another record. Sorry to interrupt this very important broadcast, but it's time for one more advertisement for myself for this podcast. What I'm asking for is for you to rate it 5 stars, share it with your friends. This is like the most important thing for this podcast to grow. So if you want to do this, you go onto the podcast screen, right? You click on the ... on Spotify. Under there, it says rate show, and you go and you click it. 5 stars. If you could do that for me, that's the best way for the algorithms and all that stuff to share it out with the world. I know that it's a lot to ask, but if you could please just hit those 3 dots and then a 5 star, it would really help us out and helps us, you know, get the word out and spread the love of music. So thank you. If you're listening on YouTube, you know what to do. Like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Thank you so much. And here's the rest of the episode. I'd love to talk a little bit about Mike and your collaboration, like talking about kind of the work with the trumpet player Mike, and and kind of the way that you've developed that and other relationships.
Me and Mike have been his name's Mike Cordone. He's a trumpet player, and we've been working together for coming up on 20 years now.
Whoa,
you know?
20 years. That's awesome.
Yeah, we went to UM together. And started doing recordings together, like roommates, and played in, you know, tons of bands together, gigs and stuff. Back then in Miami, and then came out here, started working, still continued to work together, got a studio in downtown, just been, I don't know, you know, like he's my partner on all this horn stuff, you know, so I do the saxes and woodwinds and trombones and low brass, and he does the trumpets and flugelhorns. And we kind of just switch off as engineer, and because our studio is a 2-room, you know, like recording recording room with a booth, or a control room rather. And so, you know, we both have the skills to do both things, you know. And it's been a great, he's an incredible trumpet player. You know, super happy to work with him all the time.
Yes.
He's my guy, you know.
Right. And how special is that? And to be able to maintain that. Any tips for somebody that, like, say for example, they're in college, music school, or they listen to this, and they're finding these people. They're like, yo, you fill in the gaps in my skills, I fill in the gaps of yours. We're able to collaborate, and we can each engineer each other, all those kind of things. You need other people. Any tips on like how to maintain those kind of friendships and relationships and business partners? Like 20 years, that's a really long time.
I'll say this: you have to get work.
Okay, yeah, right.
You know what I mean?
That's a great, exactly. Same thing, like any team, like basketball players, like how are you guys like such a good team? It's like we win. You know?
Exactly. Like it has to work,
right?
And then you have to like get money for it.
Yeah.
And then when you get money for it, somebody else will want the same two people again.
Yes.
And like, you have to look out for each other too, obviously, you know, like, if somebody calls me,
Mm-hmm.
you know, i.e. you,
yeah, right.
And you're like, I want a horn section on this. And I'm like, cool. And then I'm like, yo, Mike, we got this job.
Cool.
You know what I mean? It's like, whoever brings something to the job,
Mm-hmm.
you have to be willing to, you know, sacrifice a little bit of the money to bring on another guy, because you know that that'll bring up your brand or your product, or you know, it'll make it better and it'll make it more enjoyable to do the work too.
Yes.
So it has to be a friendship.
Mm-hmm.
It has to be trust, and it has to be like you work well together, you know, and there has to be kind of, I don't know if in some cases it's one person that is the managerial find the work type person.
Right.
But in our case, we both bring stuff in to, you know, and so, it's just like, you just have to make it work. You have to be like, all right, we're going to do this. We're going to be a team. And it's like, okay, how do we get work?
Right.
Like, I don't know. You hit up your guys. I'll hit up my guys. Let's get some work, you know?
Yeah.
And, I mean, that's basically it, I guess.
I love it.
Yeah.
I've got one final question for you. So the show is called Love Music More. The segment is called Love Music Why. And I'd love to just, you know, throw this your way, take this wherever you'd like. Why do you keep doing it? Why do you choose music? Why has this been such a foundational part of your life? What would you say to, you know, yourself in like 6th grade or something like that now?
Well, in 6th grade, I knew I was going to be a professional musician. Like, there was no doubt. Like in 3rd grade. I knew
Hell yeah.
Like, my parents are musicians. And my whole family's musicians. And that's basically what I did for my whole life since I was like a little kid, you know. But why do I do it? I mean, music has given me everything, you know. I mean, it's the guiding light for me, and it's magic, and I'm obsessed with it, and it's the truth, you know. It's creating something out of nothing. It's the moment. It disappears. It's just that moment, and it's gone, you know. And you can't see it, you know. It's something that everybody understands, and it's the way that I express myself, you know. But me as what'd you say, a 6th grader?
Yeah. What would you say?
What would I say to a 6th grade me? I probably would say, like, learn as many skills as you possibly can in music, because that's what you need to do in order to work in music, is be super diversified in what you can do. And I knew that at that time. Like, I was already doing that. But I had this teacher, his name was Joel Siegel, and he was a saxophone player and a pastor. And he said to me, either you're going to be the very best at one thing, which in my case would be playing jazz tenor saxophone, right? Or you are going to be really good at a lot of things. And guess what? You're not going to be the best. So you better be good at a lot of things. And that always kind of stuck with me, you know.
Yeah.
And he told me that in high school, but, you know, same difference.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
And that's a really good one. That's a really good one. I really resonate with that, because, like, I don't know, you could apply that to so many different things. Like, what, you know, small odds pursuit do you want in your life? It's like, apply that same mentality. Like, are you going to be the best basketball player? It's like, Probably not.
You got to be the best.
You got to be the absolute best.
You
Exactly.
have to be the absolute best. Yeah.
Like, are you already 7'6", like, Victor Wembanyama, or like, are you built that way? It's like, no, sorry, you're probably not going to be the best.
Yeah.
So what are you going to do with that? Like, yeah, you're gonna diversify your skills. You're gonna have a reason why other people want to work with you. You got to win. You got to go take it out. So I love that. That was a really great answer.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for chatting with me, Jesse. This was super, super fun. Loved it. I'm feeling very inspired. And let's make some more music together.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, man.
Totally, man.
All right, awesome. Have a great rest of your day.
Yeah, you too, man.